Welcome to Body Efficiency Training. My name is Toby, and on this video I want to talk about Tai Chi Wrestling. And this is a little sparring session or training session I had maybe eight years ago or so. But what we're practicing here is pushing hands. It's a particular method of friendly fighting. So we're starting off here in a position, a wrestling position, but we're not actually wrestling, we're just practicing the movement of our arms in this position. It's like we're practicing a particular moment in a fight. There's a moment where there's a crossover between striking and wrestling. And you can think of that as where you're trying to find dominance by pushing and pulling, and that is pushing hands. Now usually pushing hands is known in Tai Chi, so that's why I've called this Tai Chi Wrestling, and it's usually done standing up. But here we're practicing it in a position, in a more uncomfortable position, a wrestling position, underneath the mount position. You see, even whatever position you find yourself in, there's always something you can do. And again, wrestlers will know that. But here we're practicing the moment just before it goes into wrestling. It's the moment where they're still striking, we're still scrabbling about. But of course, in a real fight, this is a matter of seconds. And we're taking this moment and playing it on and on and on and on. So we're not really fighting, we're not competing, we're helping each other. And that's the idea of this. So now we're doing more like what you would recognize in Tai Chi, standing up pushing hands. Now here you can see we're practicing the structure. We've both got quite a nice tall vertical structure. We have got a horse riding stance, the legs are apart, hips are open at the front and the back, shoulders are up and back a little bit, and we're trying to use this whole structure to resist the pushing and pulling of our opponent. You see, it's got to be slow motion, slow and careful. It's not really a fight, because we're trying to find all the different angles that force could be applied to us, or we could apply to our opponent, and once we find them, we've got to try and resist them. So we're helping each other. It's not really a competition. So we're playing out this moment where striking and wrestling are crossing over, and we're playing out this moment on and on and on and on and on, like a dance. And the reason it's got to be slow is it's very difficult. It's surprisingly difficult. It requires an internal awareness. You see, in fighting now we've got MMA, and that's fairly obvious. If you really want to learn how to fight, you need MMA. You've got to have wrestling, and you've got to have striking. But there's one more aspect that I think you need to have, and that is pushing hands. That's this moment. This is the crossover moment between striking and wrestling. Now here we're doing it standing up, so you can think of this as standing wrestling or standing grappling. We're pushing and pulling, trying to gain control of our opponent's structure and trying to stop them gaining control of our structure, and at the same time we're trying to position ourselves for striking. We're trying to also strike. So there's a crossover between these two things. Now if you practice this in this slow motion, careful and friendly manner, it's a very important addition to your combat skills, because we're so used to sparring full out, and in MMA is just flat out sparring. And the trouble is, when you do that, your brain, your mind gets distracted by pain, fear, and you've got to win the fight, that you can't really truly concentrate on your internal feelings. And you've got to get this internal feeling of your structure. It's internal. You've got to feel it. You can't even think about it. You see, this is all spontaneous, all freestyle, so every movement is going to be brand new. It's not a preset thing. So the only option is to feel, and now you see the movement here, very slow, very careful. But what is it that we're feeling? You see, we're feeling a force, a pushing or a pulling, and we're trying to either resist it or absorb it through our whole body structure. It's not just the arms. The arms got to take it through the shoulders, from the shoulders through the rib cage into the spine, then from the spine to the hips, then down to the knees, the ankles and the ground. So you have to adjust your entire body structure in one go. You see, when you're being pushed, they are lever forward at the hips to create a different strength in the structure. But I'm not holding it with just my arms or just my shoulder, just my legs. It's all about redistributing the force through the entire body structure in one go. And here we're doing it standing up. And you see, this is what I call the upright neutral stance. It looks so controlled because we're just standing in pretty much the same position. But the reason we're holding that position, it is because it's simply the most efficient position. There's no arbitrary reason. It's not a style. We're just literally trying to find the most practical, optimum position to hold a good structure in your body. Now, it's not really fighting because it's slow motion and we're giving each other a chance. We just, now here you see wrestling, got a headlock, but I let him out. It's just enough so he knows here's another position. Now you've got to find a maneuver to get out of it, and then we keep the fight going. Same here, I'm pulling his leg away, but I'm not actually completely pulling it. I'm giving him a chance to resist, so he locks up his structures that I can feel it. Yeah, his leg's not moving, so then I move on to the next move. It's nearly like we're also taking it in turns. You have a go, I have a go, you have a go, I have a go. But it's freestyle, it's a bit more fluid than that. So, but you see here, what we're doing is practicing, as I said, the intermediate moment in a fight. You get is a flow state. You see, your brain switches off, your thoughts switch off. You can't think about it. You've got to become one with your body. Just feel. There's no thoughts, and it's a bit. A flow state is more like a trance. You can think of it like a trance. It's just movement. Your body is just moving. You can just feel the force and you feel the movement in your body. Now what we're trying here is to get up. So I'm underneath. We're doing the pushing hands and I've just got to work my way to standing up. But we're going slowly and carefully. So I'm not going. It's not a flat out competition, but we're just slowly working our way from the ground position to a standing position. And you can see here it's moving closer to wrestling. So jiu-jitsu people will recognize some of these moves. But we're not finishing the wrestling. We're just practicing this intermediate moment where you're trying to find optimum positioning before the wrestling really starts. It's also a crossover with striking. All of these positions we can still strike from. But here from striking now, you can see now here I've given him my back. So this is I've done on purpose. And now I've given him a chance to try something else. So now he's got me in a choke. So now from here again, very slowly and carefully, I'm just trying to maneuver myself. He's also letting me. It's a practice of flow, just flowing and moving. Remember, it's a dance. It's literally a dance. It's not real combat. It's not quite sparring. It's the intermediate moment between striking and wrestling. So, and like I said, this I think would be the complete training for MMA. This is the internal training, internal combat practice. So now it's the other way around. I'm on top of him, and he's got to work his way up from here underneath me to the standing position. So again, you're just finding different maneuvers. We're letting each other do it. We're also helping each other. But we're doing it in a controlled fashion, gradually working our way up. And you can see here, again, the positioning of my body. I'm still basically maintaining what I call a neutral stance. A neutral spine with a neutral arms and legs. They're bent halfway, so I can expand and contract from that position. And I'm just moving, and there's a standing up one. It's just standing up, same thing, vertical neutral stance. So anyway, I hope this little session made sense. You enjoyed this. Do let me know any questions or comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in any of these other videos here.